Well, hello, I'm Guy Flynn, and it is my great honor to be here today to talk with and interview Jeff Galvin, the founder and CEO of American Gene Technologies. Jeff, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, you have had an amazing career, beginning in some respects with having taught at MIT when you were in high school. So talk to us a little bit about your career evolution from then to becoming the founding CEO of American Gene Technologies.
Well, I think one of the things that drove me in my whole youth and in my career development was just things that I fell in love with. And when I was in the 7th grade, I saw a teletype terminal that was donated to our school by Bolt, Brennick and Newman, a timeshare company. These things are all ancient terms, which you shouldn't know anything about. All those things have disappeared at this point, but it was an opportunity to learn how to program computers. And I got an independent study at my high school, and I learned how to program in a language called Logo. And it was my first experience with computers, but I was just smitten. I just loved computers, not because I loved to program, but I loved what I could see that they could do. And I really saw these things as taking away all the rote, boring activities of adding numbers and formatting things, and I could just see an amazing future in these new things that I just experienced, computers. Well, how I got involved with MIT was I was at that point, I guess, 14 years old, 13, 14 years old. And my father went to MIT, and I'd been to some open houses, so I was comfortable on the campus, and I just started wandering around looking for computer resources that I could use. And that's where I got exposed to robots and A to D conversion that would go ahead and allow you to add sensors to computers that could sense the temperature or whatever. And then I realized, okay, there's no limit to what computers are going to do. Well, while wandering around the halls of MIT, I bumped into something called the High School Studies program, and they asked me if I'd like to take classes on weekends because they had people that were teaching classes for high school students in the area. And I looked at what they were offering, and there was nothing in computer science. So I asked them, could I teach a class in programming basic? And they just looked at me, this little 15-year-old, and they were like, well, show us a syllabus. So I went home and went to the library and looked up what a syllabus was, and I presented one to them, and they liked it. So they gave me resources and a classroom on the weekends, and I had high school students and college students coming into my class to learn how to program in BASIC. So that was my first experience teaching. After high school, I went to Harvard, and in the first year, I was, quite a very experienced computer person, very excited by it and passionate about it. And so I went through all of the curriculum in the first year and sort of aced out of everything that you could do in computer science at Harvard at that point. And then I was interested in teaching again. And I got a position as a teaching fellow for Natural Sciences 110, which was the beginning computer science class, sort of get your science requirement out of the way if you're a non-science person. And it was the second biggest class on campus. And I guess I was showing so much passion and excitement and just dedication to being a TF that the professor made me head TF. And so I even got to give lectures to full 1,200 students, whenever the professor was out of town, and run an organization of about 30 teaching fellows. And so that was a really great experience that I loved. And that again, I just kept on my whole life just pursuing what I loved. Next stop is I get recruited by Silicon Valley. That makes sense with a computer background. I went to HP, and HP really was about the programming, and so it didn't really light my fire the same way. I ended up shortly thereafter at Apple, and then I just got the fire in my belly for computers again. I had probably, like a lot of people, had thought that microcomputers were too small to do anything serious. But when I saw what Apple was focusing on, I realized that wasn't the case. That that was going to be something that had a huge future, and also they had an attitude about this thing that really matched mine, which is that computers are a tool. They're not an end in themselves. They're basically something to enhance people's lives. Steve Jobs always called it the bicycle for the mind. And that was the way that I felt about computers. You don't have computers because you just like computers. You have computers because they do things for you that are worth a lot more than you spend on computers. And utility and accessibility and usable power was what Apple was all about. So anyway, that just sort of lit my fire in terms of entrepreneurship. I had a couple of startup companies. Some of them did well, and other ones didn't lose so much money that it undid the ones that did well. I was in Silicon Valley investing in real estate as well, and I ended up retiring at about age 41. And if you can imagine this, I got bored of just leisure time, and I wanted to dabble again. And so people found out I had money, and I started getting business plans over the transom, potential investments, and that, sounded like a good way to get back into business without being, 24/7 again. And one of the things that I got was an introduction to Roscoe Brady at NIH, and he showed me viral vectors. And I immediately had the same just excitement and vision for a future of viral vectors that I had the first time that I saw a computer. I fell in love with it, and that's what's driving me right now. I just think this is an amazing technology. The utility for human beings, the potential of improving people's lives, of mitigating diseases that heretofore were completely unaddressable by traditional drug development. It's all there. And 10 years ago, I could see it. The moment that Roscoe Brady explained to me what viral vectors could do, I just said, this is the operating system for the human computer, that the human cell is nothing but an organic computer to me. It runs on DNA, which is coded in ACTG. That's not that different than computers that run in binary, which is coded in zeros and ones. You could think of ACTG as just base 4. It's all just numbers. And these genes are just commands to the machine. And if we can change those commands, we can change anything. And if we can get in there and we can work on the DNA, I know that's a source of a lot of problems, and it's also a solution to a lot of problems. And I just saw this amazing future just clearly laid out in front of me, and I just had to get involved. And that's what's driven me for the last 10 years, and that vision is really playing out.
Tell us a little more about Dr. Brady and his amazing background as a scientist, and how the two of you came to co-found really AGT, and a little bit about your relationship personally with him.
Dr. Brady was an amazing man, just brilliant, recognized in the field, highly decorated, even a commercial success. He was the person who discovered the root cause of Gaucher's disease, which is a horrible disease where people can't metabolize lipids in their organs, and their organs swell over time and they burst. So they die of basically organs that just swell up with lipids that can't be processed. Anyway, he discovered that they were missing an enzyme called glucocerebrosybase, and he figured out a way to get it back into the necessary cells, and he made a cure for Gaucher's disease and out-licensed that to Genzyme, that sold $1 billion a year, extending people's lives with this new technology. So, he's just in terms of a scientist, just an amazing guy, amazing researcher, and incredibly passionate about helping people. Then I got to say, personally, he's just the most down-to-earth and gracious person you'll ever meet. He didn't know me from Adam, and I walked into his office and he just treated me like I was, some sort of peer, and he was going to explain to me what he knew. And he explained it so well that it was easy for me to understand it right away. And I just said to him, somebody's going to have to be the Microsoft of this industry. It might as well be us.
Yeah. Now,
he was retiring, so he couldn't really jump into something full time. He was already, I think, in his late 70s when I met him. So he wasn't going to kind of go back to the bench and go to work and be that kind of co-founder, but he was a cheerleader. He was our inspiration. He was somebody that gave me great confidence in the future of viral vectors during those early years, and he supported my vision for what this could become, as well as to always lend a guiding hand whenever he could. And he's still a continuing inspiration around the company, and we miss him greatly. He passed away June 13th, 2016. and you know, big loss for the community and especially for us. But we're going to, you know, continue the work that he started at NIH, and I think this is going to turn into something really amazing and important and significant, and he was a big factor in that.